Because ultimately what I have to offer is something that very few people take into consideration. And most people completely ignore. As a matter of fact, I'll just put it out from the beginning. That way we can edit it out from the very beginning. I don't know a single public figure life coach that is aware of this fact of what I'm sharing with you. Really? So everything that they're saying and doing is in a slightly different perspective. It's from a different, what happens is that you have a perspective from your mind. And it's like, for example, if I'm viewing through my camera, and I walk around, on camera mode, looking out with my camera, and I'm viewing everything, I have a certain perspective. And it's a very clear perspective. I've got a great iPhone. I've got a 4K camera on it. It's very, very clear, but there's things that I'm missing. And when I put that camera down, and then I open my eyes and I look, I see something completely different. On top of that, if the camera, when I'm looking at myself, the camera is in mirror mode, then what I'm seeing, when you look in the mirror, what you're seeing is a mirror opposite of you. You're not seeing the real you. I remember when I was in high school, I was into photography. I would take pictures of myself and of people with negatives, and then I would flip the negative over and I would make a printout of what the person looks like to themselves, right next to what you look like to the camera. For you, like if you look at me, you're seeing me, and I take a picture and I look like my picture. But why is it that a lot of people don't like the way they look on camera? It's because it's a mirror perspective, and your left side is slightly different from your right side. And then when you flip it and you start showing people, it's like, whoa, that looks really weird. And then you look at yourself and you're like, yeah, that's what I look like. And they're like, wait, but that's my real picture. Like, ooh, that's strange, right? So it's the same thing with the mind. We're looking through the lens of the mind. When you're in the forest, you miss the forest for the tree. Or you're up above and then you miss the tree for the forest. So you have to know that these two perspectives exist. When you're aware that these two perspectives exist, it doesn't matter because I can flip mirror mode and regular mode. It's an added advantage to have both. This is what I'm showing people what to do, how to see both. Because you don't want to only see one. See, there's most people only live in their minds and through their minds. And there's a reason for that. And I go over it in all my videos, but I'll sum it up as needed. And that's fine. And then there's people who renounce life, renounce everything, go sit in a cave or go sit in a monastery, go do a vipassana and then stay there forever. And they renounce their mind. So now they're looking through the other perspective. But through that perspective, you have no utility. You can't go out and make money. You can't find a lover. You can't make, how do you do anything? So you need to have the option of being able to look through both. Just like you need to be able to look in a mirror. My grandmother taught me this, and put on makeup. It's so opposite. She spent hours doing her makeup, and I asked her about it. And she said, here, you try it. And I was like, oops, how do I put on lipstick, right? Because you're looking in a mirror, and I was never used to, why would I look at myself and try to paint in a mirror? First, you had to learn how to do it. Yeah. Just like imagine that you are, you're driving, and you're a good driver. And have you ever seen those stunt drivers that do everything in reverse? I've seen some great video clips on YouTube where there's a guy in a race car, in a little car, and he's racing around the streets of San Francisco with cones and all these obstacles. It's all cleared out, right? And he's doing everything in reverse. So he's doing everything through the rearview mirror, and he's driving. Now imagine if I were to say to you, okay, everything you've been doing great in your life. And sure, there's some things that you might think you could be doing better, and there's things that every once in a while we all do worse, but you're there you are, you're doing great. Do you know that you're actually driving in reverse? That everything you're seeing is a mirror image, and that you need to stop, put it in neutral, look, reverse your image, look not through the mirror, but through the actual windshield. The mirror is still there, you can still use it. Put it in drive and start driving forward. There would be a learning curve because your entire life, your windshield has been blacked out. You've only been looking at the little mirror, right? Now you get to look through the actual windshield and out through the sides. And would you agree that with a little bit of practice, you would become a better driver, a much better driver, just being able to drive forward, looking through everything, then having to do everything through a little rearview mirror, even though you could be a professional, the best of the best, the top, a financial guru, a top life coach, the president. It doesn't really matter what. You made it to the top of the top. but you've been doing everything through that rear view mirror.
Right.
And that's what mind is. Mind is, that's why there's this whole analogy of the mind as a mirror. Because everything that the mind sees is a mirror reflection of what you can perceive as a thinking, feeling being when your mind is off. And that's the whole purpose of my Stop and Reboot Your Mind program. Give you a breathing exercise so you can experience, and suddenly there you are, and there's no mind.
Yeah.
Your mind is gone. Now, did you experience that? I guess that's the first question to ask you. How was that experience? Right. Your awareness, you're aware, you're conscious of your body, and you're in your body and you're not in your mind. You pop back into your mind. What happens with most of us is that we pop right back out.
Yeah.
But what if I told you that, well, it's now, so first, like I ask in the end of the video, doesn't that show that you are not your mind? So everything that's going on in the head, all the identifications, all the feelings, all the thoughts, all the values, all the beliefs, all the stories, all the sentiments, the fear, the desires, the drama, the ambition, the problems, those exist only up here. And they're not who we are. They're not what we are. They're the software, they're the programs, they're the apps that are running in this thinking, feeling body. And there's a utility to being able to function as a thinking, feeling body with a mind that can be turned on to solve something. Because there's things that need to be, I mean, you need your mind. I'm using the mind right now to talk to you and to set up the laptop and the software and like all of that's required, and to run a business, and to make money and to pay my taxes and to interact with people. I need to create a persona, a personality. I need to identify myself as, hey, I'm Raphael and I am this person, or I'm the person going into the bank, or I'm the person going to get my visa and I'm a US citizen. So here I'm Raphael the American, or the taxpayer, or the husband, or the father, but that's just one room of the house. That's the office. It's not the house. That's not who I am. That's my office. I'm out of my workspace and I come back home. Yes, and we're all born that way. You weren't born with a mind. Mind is content. This is what everybody's missing. Mind is who you are. No, mind is content. And you're born contentless, where you might have some experience you picked up in the womb. You heard some sounds, you had experiences, your mom ate too much chili and that was spicy to you. She ate it every day, so you woke up and you're like, ooh, I want spicy milk, right? So we're thinking, feeling bodies, and we're born with no mind. And we're born at a state of very, very low consciousness. We're unaware that we're conscious. We're either sleeping or we're awake, and then we're either hungry or we're full and we're satiated, or we're, I don't know, pooping in our diapers. What else do you do as a child? There's nothing else. And then there's sounds, lights, sensation, there's sensory experiences that are happening to us. And we don't even have a sense of self. Until somewhere around the age of 2 or 3, by this point, we're like mind. And then somewhere around the age between 3 and 5, we identify ourselves. We first recognize that, hey, I'm a boy or I'm a girl. It's when we become complex enough, because when we're born, our body isn't finished yet.
Right.
We don't have all the organs functioning properly. Our brain hasn't reached full size. Neither has our heart, neither has our kidney, neither have our genitals, nothing. Like everything is still in process of developing. Our bones are still mostly cartilage. And slowly, we go from being completely unconscious and unaware of ourselves to become conscious of ourselves, but not aware of our awareness. And then as that grows, by the time we're 7 years old, 8 years old, we have a pretty good sense of, we should have a good sense of who we are. I am Raphael. This is me. This is who I am. But it's all based on stories that I was told from my society. All of that and all of my behaviors, 90%, 99% of all my behaviors at this point are, this is how I'm going to behave. This is who I think I am. Like a sponge that fell into water, whatever it fell into, that's what it absorbed. So if you have a clean sponge, a new sponge, and you put it in pure water, and then you squeeze it and you put it on the counter and you let it dry, it's still a clean sponge, right? Right. But if it falls into water with anything in it, then it's not a clean sponge anymore. And if that water is polluted, or dirty and filthy, then that sponge will stay filthy until you put it in, start rinsing it in clean water. And then if it has certain things like certain oils, even the water won't be enough to clean it. You're going to add some sort of detergent to it. Finally, you can have a sponge that you can say, hey, this is a clean sponge. Our minds, our bodies, our thinking, feeling bodies have brains that absorb the content of what's happening around us, everything that's happening around us as experiences, as knowns, ABC, 1, 2, 3. I'm Raphael, or I'm a boy or a girl, right? However that works out, right? And this is my last name, and this is my culture, and this is my religion, or this is the political environment of my family, and this is my society, and these are things I like and I don't like, the do's and the don'ts. And all of that is your mind. In the ultimate environment, when you reach puberty, which is the time when your entire spinal column, because it's not just a brain, it's an entire spinal column. And to be clear, your skin is the outer surface of your brain. That's where all the sensory neurons are there. That's why you feel so much. We're always an organic unity, even if you can be dissected into parts. But you're imprinting all of this information, and the content is whatever your sponge, the thinking, feeling body fell into, your family, your society, your social economic class, everything that's going on, right? Like the ultimate, like empowering experience for Homo sapiens sapiens is that by the time you reach puberty, you have the full complexity that you go through some sort of process, some sort of what's the word for it? I've forgotten it. You know, in Aboriginal experiences, the child will be sent into the outback. A rite of passage. You would have a rite of passage that allows you to drop that mind, because that mind is a child mind. That operating system is an operating system that only a child should have. And the first time that you're capable of, that you're fully formed and you can fully be able to become self-referential and say, this is good and this is bad, this is right and this is wrong for me, is when you've reached puberty. When you have sexual freedom, age at which you should be able to raise a child. So you should know what's right or wrong, because you have to now guide an infant that needs a remote external control mechanism in mind. The child's mind is, how do you tell a child what to do from a distance? Because you have to be able to say stop before it reaches the car or it falls out the window or before it gets hit by traffic with birds going on, right? So mind for a child is an external control mechanism. And everything that mind does is mirror opposite, because it comes from the outside. But take that mind and go, hey, this was a great mind. Thanks, Mom, Dad. Thanks, society. You gave me a great mind that gave me all the skills for me to reach adulthood. Now I'm going to take this operating system and I'm going to collapse it. I'm going to deconstruct it. The caterpillar reaches a certain size, and then it says, okay, now I'm going to put myself in a cocoon. I'm going to pull apart those hundreds of legs that I have, because I don't need 100 legs. I need 6 legs or 4 legs. I want wings. And I want a long body. I want a thin, streamlined body. And I don't want to be green like the leaves. I want to be multicolored like the flowers I'm going to be on. So I have to take my Lego blocks and pull it apart. Physically, that's what the caterpillar does. And it reassembles itself physically into the shape of a butterfly. For a human being, the ultimate experience, and it should be the minimal experience. I'm saying ultimate because it's like, nobody does it. Nobody knows about this. But you should be able to take the mind that was given to you that you imprinted in the first 14 years of your life. And when you reach puberty, you should be able to then take that mind, deconstruct it, and create yourself as a unique individual person with your own mind. What works for you, because only you can know what is right or wrong, good or bad for this thinking, feeling body at any given time. Nobody can tell you that for you. So what's happening is that we're all functioning from our old minds that are given to us. And on top of that, because of how we're raised in society and all taboos around sex, and we repress our emotions, we don't have full dynamic range of our emotions because we're taught to repress them. These are good emotions, those are bad emotions. This is a good part of your body, that's a bad part of your body. So it's like, across below the waist is bad. Yeah. Above is good. Here in this part of the world, the feet are dirty and unholy because people walk around barefoot traditionally, right? In the countryside, are wearing flip-flops. The head is holy and special, so the body is cut Everything below the belt is dirty and bad. Everything above the belt is good. So that's the first split. That creates the first schizophrenia. That creates the first divide. So we're born and we're just like a kind of, with eyes and nose and fingers and digits, right? And then we're immediately told, you're a boy or a girl before you get a chance to gender identify yourself. Gender, and then you have a psychological gender. In most cases, the XX chromosome is a physical female and a psychological female. And in most cases, the XY chromosome is a physical male and a psychological male. But you can have an XX chromosome physical female that's psychologically masculine. Because you have both. Then you can have an Y chromosome, a man that is psychologically feminine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we have both. Our consciousness isn't either male or female. It's not masculine or feminine. Our body is X or XY, and there's some, 1% of the population has variations of that. So we're divided and we're told, okay, male or female, choose. You're a boy or you're a girl. This part is good, this part is bad. You're this family, so you're separate from the other families. You're this nationality, so you're separate from this nationality. You're this religion, so you're separate from this religion. You're this political identification or association, so you're separate from that one. And psychologically, your mind starts getting split. Now suddenly your mind is partitioned. And all of that is to you from the outside. So you're given a software, a mind, an operating system that from the get-go, first, it's at least 10 to 100,000 years old.
At least, yeah.
Not older, because I mean the fact that we've been using fire for the past 800,000 years, at least 500,000 years consistently around the world. That information is passed along. Right. The word for mother, ma, and me, is almost the same in all languages. It goes back almost 100,000 years immediately, right? The way we count our alphabets, everything goes back thousands of years. So we have a mind and operating system that's out of date. And that's what's running this. And the whole exercise of doing the breathing exercises is to get you out of that and show you that you are not that that's something that you have. Now, do you want to keep using it? Is it functioning for you? Or would you like to update your operating system? Would you like to update the firmware? And would you like to put some plugins and get some apps that function with reality? Right. So the first thing is to recognize is that you are not your mind. You're a thinking, feeling body that has a mind that you can go into. Did you do the Essentials program where you looked at hydration levels and breathing oxygen levels? Okay, so if you go through the Essentials program, it's, again, about 45 minutes, an hour long, and it gives you the 4 or 5 basic essentials that as a body you need to stay grounded and centered in your body. Because you want to get into the habit. If you want to be able to switch the operating system, you need to be able to turn the mind off. Just like if I have my phone, I need to, or my laptop, I need to download the new operating system. I need to close all the windows and apps that are running, save all the files that are unsaved, empty out the trash. And then I need to do a shutdown. I need to do a reboot. So the stop and reboot your mind gives you an experience of how to kind of do a forced quit, just do a stop and reboot the mind, right? And the Essentials program teaches you how to take care of your body so that your body will start functioning as a body with a mind, that it can turn on or it can turn off. Now you can pause and reboot your body, but your mind is going to turn on because your mind has a million turn on buttons, but there isn't a single turn off button. And it's been programmed that way because if you keep someone in their child mind, they're controllable, they're manipulatable, they are governable. There's a vested interest for thousands of years, since before the Buddha, the famous Buddha. It was already in place. It was already part of the established society that people need to be told what to do because they're kept in their child minds. This was figured out a long time, at least 5,000, 8,000 years ago. This was figured out. In all systems, this has been running. This is the core program that's been running. They keep keeping in their minds, and your mind stops. Your child mind starts developing when you reach puberty. So for women, it stops developing at age 14, and for men, it stops developing at around age 12, which is why women tend to be slightly more mature and advanced than men. So the child mind, you reach 14, and Well, if you're 34, you've been 14 for 20 years. Now, obviously, someone who's been 14 for 20 years has much more experience than somebody who's been 14 for 1 year. So you can outmaneuver, you can be more cunning, you can control, you can manipulate. Somebody who's been in their child mind for 50 years, well, they can become a president, they can become a prime minister, they can be a general in an army because they have 40, 50 years of experience, 60 years, 70 years of experience in that mind. Anything you use for that amount of time, you're going to become an expert at.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that your actual psychological maturity level is higher than that of you just reached puberty, which is why we have all these sex skills and why we go to war and why we fight, because we're stuck at that level. That's what the mind can do. So what I propose is that if you are interested, what you can do, and what this will be about, is I will show you what the steps are so that while you're living your life, your normal life, doing what it is that you love to do, you can be closing the app first, getting your body tuned so that it goes into it. You function as a body with a mind. All those on switches that are on, they're just incomplete thoughts, incomplete experiences, repressed emotions. There's simple methodology for clearing this out. The thing is that there's a million incomplete thoughts, ideations, emotions, and experiences going on in the unconscious. So it takes some time, and you have to systematically go through and start. Okay, I'm going to put a new operating system in my smart device, but I've got a million unsaved files, and I don't want to trash. I don't want to throw them away. I need them. They're useful. They're my experiences. They're experience, It's a gold mine. All the gold nuggets, all the pearls of wisdom, all the little diamonds. If you throw everything away and go live in a cave in the Himalayas, you're just burying it. You're dumping it away, and you can be fully functional, no mind, in a cave in the Himalayas, which means, I don't know, you got to go out and get some food, and keep bears out of your cave, but that's it. So you go to a monastery and there's no bears, and you get a bowl of food, but then you don't have to think about anything, right? So it's not very utilitarian, and there's hundreds of millions of people who've done that, maybe 1 billion people, and it's beautiful, but they can't function in the world of today. Money, they don't know what to do with it. A spouse, they can't function with. If you can understand that you are a thinking, feeling body with a mind that is an old operating system that needs to be explored, that's what meditation is about. Becoming aware of the content of your mind so that you can go, hey, this is a really useful thought. I'm going to keep this in the right place. And this was just completely outdated. It's just silly. And this one's incomplete. So I'm going to complete it. And then what am I going to do with it? Oh, this is useful. I'm going to put it here on the shelf. Oh, this is like, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to get rid of this. And this is one of those, it's a stupid thought. There's no such thing as a stupid idea. Well, yeah, right. The idea can't be stupid, but there's an idea that can make you stupid. For example, if I spend 10 hours a day contemplating on how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, I'm using all the bandwidth that I could be using for something else. So it lowers my intelligence. It stupefies me. If I spend the entire day on social media downloading and doing TikTok and little dances and learning the lyrics to every one of my favorite songs, or the statistics of all the best athletes, the whole NFL, basketball, okay, that's great. So you can memorize a million things, or pi, right? I'm going to memorize pi to a million digits. There's a limited bandwidth. There's only so much thinking power. You have a limited mind power. Every thought that you complete and you drop out of your mind, you take out of the RAM of your thinking, feeling supercomputer body, gives you that much more processing power. Now, most of us can only handle 3, 4, 6 things at a time, up to a dozen. If you can be aware of a dozen things at a time, you're like a Cirque du Soleil performer. You can do a lot of things. Most people are like 3, 4, 5. Be aware of 5 things at a time. But you've got a million things going on. Now imagine being able to clear out all of that and have 100% total mind power. It's doable, but you're the only one that can do it.
Right, of course.
The way you can do it is from a state beyond the mind, outside of it. You have to leave the room, grab a mop and a broom and a spoon, sponge, and then you have to go back into it and go, okay, what is this? Oh, this is a trick. Polish it, clean up, and put it here. Right, so I like to think of my mind. I had this image of my mind as I imagined what my mind was like. And my mind was like going into a library that had been hit by an earthquake and a tornado. There's books everywhere. Everything's on the shelf. So I went through and I picked up the first one that I could, and I looked at it and go, oh, this is about my mom. Okay, look at it. Okay, close it, put it on the shelf under mothers. And then another one, fathers. And this is about money, and this is about life, and this is about love, and this is about sex, and this is about friendship, and this is about the experience I had when I was an infant and my parents' divorce, and the experiences I received, and these are the emotions that I repressed, and these are my hopes, my dreams, my desires. And it turns out that your entire mind can only be either thoughts of your body and your body image, your emotions and how you feel about your emotions, your mind and how you feel about your mind, sex, money, love, family, relationships, politics, God, death, random stuff. Like there's just a dozen things there's only a dozen categories. So if you go through the essential programs and you start breathing in a way that gives you oxygenation so that your body is centered and grounded, you stay hydrated. Because 2 glasses of water, if you're underhydrated by 2 glasses of water, your performance will drop as much as 80%, and your blood sugar levels. If you're not maintaining steady blood sugar levels, it's like imagine your car needs steady fuel supplies, right? What about an airplane? You want the fuel pump to be working properly on an airplane? How your brain functions.
Yeah. Glucose. Okay.
Metabolism sugar is glucose. If you maintain steady blood sugar levels, you can have steady low blood sugar levels. You can have steady peak performance blood sugar levels.
Okay.
It's the exact fuel mixture that you need to function at peak performance. It's a combination of how you're breathing, how you're hydrated, and your blood sugar levels, and then overall what you're eating over the week, and then your posture. If you can maintain those 5 things, you can enhance your performance by up to 80-90%. 80-90% is a small number. It's like we're going to eliminate 80-90% of all of your taxes, of all the weight you're carrying. It can be as much as 80-90% of that, just by eating properly, breathing properly, hydrating properly, staying balanced, staying aligned. That's what Essentials is all about. And then your the HMOM, the Stop and Reboot Your Mind program. Here's the technique for it. You want to be able to fine tune that and do it as simply and easily as possible. So, for example, you did the exercise number 3,
Yeah.
right? And it's 2 minutes of slow breathing, followed by 2 minutes of medium breathing, followed by 2 minutes of very fast breathing, followed by 3 slow breaths, and then you exhale, clench, and you let things start up again, right? I'm going to invite you to fine tune that. And can you do it in a minute and 90 seconds? 90, and then 60 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, and then 45 seconds, 30 seconds. Then during the regular day, can you just breathe in at a while you're doing it, while you're driving a car, while you're reading a book, while you're watching TV, whatever you're doing, can you breathe at that rate? And can you notice moments when you drop out of your mind? Because you want to be able to drop out of your mind as effortlessly as possible. It's not an ego thing. I can hold my breath for 10 minutes. I can hold my breath for 10 hours. No, we're not doing it. If you shower, you splash fresh water on you, what happens to your mind? Well, there's people that need to throw themselves into ice baths. Now, that's great. I mean, if you want to swim with penguins, that's exactly what you need to practice. How do you do that? But if you just want to live a normal life at home, in the office, with your parents, and with your kids, with your spouse, with whatever you're doing, how about just a fresh shower? How about just splashing fresh water on your face? Shouldn't that be enough to stop your mind? All the things you love to do. You like to play music, you like to draw, you like to dance, you like to go for a run, you like to drive, you like to rollerblade, you like to surf. Everything you're doing, anything and everything, even making love, everything that you enjoy doing the most. Where are you? How do you exist? Are you in your body or are you in your mind when you are fully engaged doing something that you love the most? So can you bring awareness into that? Into all the things that you do that you're not doing, it's a being. You're dancing and you're just dancing. Dancing is just happening. Or it can be your yoga. It's not just sitting in meditation. That's being able to sit quietly and do nothing is the last thing you need to be able to do. This is why it's so hard, because you've got a million thoughts racing. Body's out of that. You're not in your body. Your emotions are repressed. You got a million thoughts going on. So it's really hard to just sit quietly and not move. That's why people need to chant something, ram, 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 or right. And that puts you into hypnosis. And that feels really good. And that's very useful to be able to do that. But you're still in your mind. So can you breathe, eat, hydrate, and rest, and take care of yourself in a way where you are, remember, I am a thinking, feeling body with mind. And then do everything you need to do. And then every time you get a chance, just sit quietly. And if you have a notebook, or just map out your thoughts. I have this thought about my body. I have this thought about my emotions. I have this thought about my mind. I have these thoughts about money. I have these thoughts about relationships, about sex, about death, about God, about spirit, about family, politics. What else is there to think about? And you start mapping them out, and you start becoming used to functioning as a thinking, feeling body with a mind that needs to be cleaned up. It needs some spring cleaning. And then there's this thing called emotions. And there's this book, I'll send you the link to it. It's called Emotional Wellness. And I talk about it in my courses. Emotional Wellness by a man named Osho. Have you read any Osho? Osho, O-S-H-O. I read this book, and when I read books, I underline everything that I agree with, and I put a little mark under anything I disagree with. If I'm reading a book, I'm educating myself, or I want to learn something about it, I make sure and I underline. And there isn't anything that I disagree with this book about emotional wellness. It just makes sense. Okay. And emotions, like we were discussing before, emotions have been around since before I was around to be able to talk about them. So I didn't invent them. They're not unique to me. I don't have any emotion that somebody else doesn't have. We're born with all of the emotions we're going to have. And they're triggered and they're associated to all sorts of things. Whether they're healthy things or not, that's something to think about. That's what this book is about. So how to achieve emotional wellness? More importantly, what do you do to be out of emotional wellness? Because as we discussed before, emotional wellness is when you're not feeling any emotion. You're just simply centered balance. It's a calm lake. There's no wind and the ocean is completely calm. And then there's a surge, there's a wave of happiness or of sadness or of anger or of excitement or passion or whatever's going on. And that's energy, and it's not sustainable. You can't always stay happy, or you can't always stay angry, you can't always stay sad. You can be depressed. Your whole level can be lower, especially if you're not taking care of yourself properly. Once you stop doing that, your depression will stop being depressed. You will stop depressing yourself. You are pressing yourself down. You will stop doing that. Once you can have full dynamic range of your emotions, there's no need to depress yourself. It's so sad how many people are depressed.
Yeah.
And I thought I was happy until I realized that, hey, I've been living inside a little space called my mind, which is infinitely big, because I can imagine the big bang and but it's still tiny. What's happening behind these ears and between these ears and behind these eyes is very small compared to all that's going on around me. And as soon as I came out of it, I was never depressed again. Because living in your mind is depressing by default, because it's so little. But there it is, the butterfly, its wings are ready to, and it has to stay inside the cocoon. Very depressing for the pressing in, right? You're pressed in. Right? So there isn't a single thing that I disagree with in this book about emotion. Now, I'm a Western male with an education, upper middle class, lower upper class uprising. Like I definitely have lots of benefits and privileges. And yes, my family went through, there's been all sorts of things. Every bad thing that happens to anyone in any family, from sickness, illness, suicide, dementia, divorces, abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, everything has happened in every family. Everybody has it. It's like hair. Everyone has all these toxins and poisons. That has happened in my family more or less than in others' families. But I bought this book for my partner, Chandra, who is female, 20 years younger, from Asia, born in a war zone, raised Aboriginal between Thailand and Cambodia. And she read the book in Thai, and there isn't a single thing that she disagrees with in the book about emotional wellness either. We're very different people. Born into the slave
Seriously.
caste, born into the ruling class. Male, female. Everything complete east and west. Everything is completely different. And it's just like, oh, I understand why I've been emotionally unwell. Oh, wow. Okay. So then we start discussing the book. We go chapter through chapter. There isn't anything that we disagree amongst ourselves about our emotions. Just like we don't argue that the sun rises in the east. You want to have an argument that the ocean is salty? With who? And for what? Anger is anger. Sadness is sadness. Emotional wellness is when you're just, who argues about how to float? You just lay on your back in the water and you don't do anything. You float. She learned how to float. She learned how to swim when she was in her late 20s. We went to go live in Copagan. She'd never lived near the ocean. I taught her how to swim. She was terrified of swimming until she finally relaxed and floated. Our daughter, who we adopted from her younger sister, terrified of water. She's 6 years old. I finally get her to float, and she's floating, and she starts laughing, and she goes, "Daddy," she goes, "this is so crazy. I was so afraid of sinking that I would make myself tight and I would sink. And as soon as I relaxed, I float, and now I can't sink." How silly is that? Emotional wellness is like that. Being present is like that. It's actually effortless unless you're doing something to take yourself out. Your mind is turning on, it's because you are unconsciously turning it on. Otherwise, why would you turn on? Are your feet trying to walk right now? No, because there's nowhere to go. Then if nothing is going on, then there's nothing to think about and there's nothing to feel. You should just be able to just be present. Sitting quietly, just being present is when all sorts of things happen that only happen when you're in that state. And you want to be able to have this experience. But you also want to be fully present, walking around, going shopping, going for a run, running a multi-million-dollar corporation, making love to your beloved, raising children, traveling, like everything. You have to be able to be present doing everything. You can. It's just about bringing your awareness in. So you modulate, you calibrate, you fine tune, you titrate your breathing, your hydration, your blood sugar levels. It's like looking at the gauge of your display. You ride a bicycle, it's very easy. You drive a car, you have to actually pay attention to the fuel gauge, the speedometer, right? The RPMs if you're in a stick shift, right? The lights. If you fly an airplane, I'm a pilot. Before getting into my airplane, I do the rounds. It takes me 45 minutes. I check every seam on the airplane. I move the flaps by hand. I kick the tires and I check to make sure the air pressure is on them. I make sure everything is functioning. I go and I open up the fuel tank. I look in, I see the fuel. I put my finger in. I touch the fuel because just what if it's an optical illusion and it's not full? I reach it. I smell it. What if it's not fuel? What if there's something else in there? Then I close it and I compare that to the fuel gauge. That's an airplane. And then before I take off, I ask myself, go or no go? And when in doubt, there is no doubt. You don't take off. Our bodies are so complex. When you think of the space shuttle for NASA, hundreds of engineers, thousands of computer systems, millions of sensors, and they start a countdown. And if there's anything wrong, they stop the countdown. Now, your hand is more complex than the space shuttle. This is a great exercise, by the way. It coordinates your left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. You're doing opposite. So breathe in slow. Exhale. When you do that,
that's going to take a while.
You're in the right hemisphere of your brain need to be aligned and coordinated. Your mind stops. You cannot be thinking about anything. It's a temporary death, as the mystic who identified this, because our minds are more complex. The minds of 2,500 years ago of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, was much simpler than the minds of today. So as years go by, our minds get that much more complex. We need to actively and dynamically do something to clear it. Right? So if we go back to our emotions, I would highly recommend studying this book carefully and doing the dynamic meditation exercises, the cathartic emotional release exercises. Because you want to be able to get to a place where you don't have to think about your emotions. Like, for example, Do you know how many toes you have? When's the last time you counted? Is there anything I can say to you to convince you that you have a different number of toes or that you lost one last night? Right. Can I ask you another intimate question? With your eyes closed, without peeking, without checking ahead of time, can you, with your eyes closed, take your finger and put it in your belly button? You can, right? Sure. So
Yes.
do you know where all your emotions are? What triggers them? Your thoughts, your ideas, your values, your beliefs, everything that's going on between those ears, behind those eyes, in that heart, as intimately as you know how many toes you have? Can you find them as easily as you can find your belly button? I do it and I can. And that is an added advantage. It's a very added advantage because it means all thoughts, I know where they are. It's like the kitchen is organized. The tool room is organized. I know where all the tools are. And I know if I need a new tool, I can go get it because it's a thought process. I can learn a new language in 3 weeks because I can put all my mind to it and I can become functional in language in 3 weeks. I can learn anything. I just found this software called Ecamm, and I got it yesterday, and I'm already like my mind is exploding with creative possibilities for all the courses I can create with it. It's equivalent of having a full recording studio that 10 years ago would have cost $1 million. Now for whatever it is, it's a full studio, and now I'm learning how, and I'm fully immersed, and now I have all these creative projects because all of my thoughts are organized and all of my feelings are categorized and understood. I have full mature adult conscious awareness of what anger is because I've allowed myself to be fully angry. So what do? You take a towel, you bite into it, and you scream as loud into it as you can. Or you go for a swim and you put your head underwater and you scream. You go somewhere where you don't bother anyone, right? And then you allow yourself to cry and be sad. And you write down all of your saddest thoughts and ideas and stories and your angriest angers and you hate with all your hatred. You sign it, you tear it up, and then you put it in the fireplace, or you have a little burn pot in the barbecue outside or somewhere. And you start slowly becoming fully conscious aware of all of your thoughts, your ideas, your values, your angers, your emotions, your sadness, what makes you happy, what makes you disturbed, what makes you sick, what makes you furious, what's your hatred about. And when you have full conscious awareness of all of it, the shift happens. That's it. That's all that's required. You don't repress anymore. You simply know yourself fully. So I know how many toes I have. I know what this body needs to eat to stay healthy. I know what this body needs to eat to maintain steady blood sugar levels, minimal blood sugar levels. I know how to take care of this body if I want peak performance blood sugar levels. I know that if I've eaten this, within 90 minutes, my blood sugar level is going to drop. So if I have a meeting, if I get a call, your daughter's in the hospital, there was an accident at school, I need to get in a cab or in a car and get there as quickly as possible. But I got to stop at a mini mart and I got to grab a handful of nuts, baby bell cheese, maybe a yogurt drink, a soda, a coffee, whatever it is, right? And then I eat. Now my protein, sugars, and fat levels are balanced. I'm hydrated. I'm at peak performance for the next 2 to 3 hours. I can take care of whatever happens instantly because I know to top up my fuel tank to check my oil level. Right? Your family is going through some stuff, your mom. Okay, well, how are you going to go visit her? You just found out. What do? Freak out. I go to the refrigerator. I go to the pantry. I grab some nuts. I grab a piece of cheese. I know what this body needs. And then I give it. Okay, now I'm good for 90 minutes to 2.5 hours to 3 hours, depending on the level of activity. If I got to climb a mountain to get to the plane wreck, it's different than if I just got to get in a cab. Or if I got to get on the phone with someone.
Right.
Before I make that call, juice, nuts, tea, little chicken satay, you're vegetarian, tofu with some almonds, right? Like it doesn't really matter. What do you need? Now, I'm a thinking, feeling body at peak performance with a mind at peak performance. I'm thriving effortlessly. Thriving is not difficult. Everybody's thriving. Like all the cockroaches are thriving, the mosquitoes are thriving, all the grass seeds are thriving. Like all the simplest forms of life they're growing in your yard whether you like it or not. You got to poison them to try to make them to stop. You got to put insect repellents in, right, and plant all sorts of things so that they won't grow because they're just exploding with life. Why is it that we're having such a hard time? Maybe because we can get lost in our minds, where we think we know what we're doing. And what we really need is to pause that mind, get into our bodies, and start feeling, what does this body need? A little more water, a little more food. Okay, now it's level. So with a little bit of exercise, you manage to level your physical body. Then with a little bit of reading and a little bit of cleanup and emotional catharsis exercises, writing things down, jumping up and down, screaming into a towel, beating up a yoga ball, right? Have a friend hold it for you and kick a yoga ball as hard as you can without hurting yourself. You've got trapped emotions in the legs. You've got trapped emotions in the arms. You can't stop. We fight. There's situations where there's people that you needed to slap or punch or kick or push away. And we didn't because we're taught to be repressed. So put it into a yoga ball. I'm not saying go hurt anyone. I'm not saying that. Or hurt yourself. Just let it out. You clear out, between clearing out your emotions, getting in your body ready, that's 90% of all the baggage, all the tax, all the limitations on this thinking, feeling body. Mind is only 10%. Now, when it's only 10%, that's very manageable to start cleaning out your mind. This is where this is when you act. This is where really your meditation practice, your mental floss activities come into place. But in a body that's already floating at a peak performance, you're aligned. Emotions, you've cleared and released your repressed emotions. Now, and meanwhile, every time you get a chance, instead of you're bored what to do, instead of picking up your phone and start playing on it, pick up that little notepad and start writing down whatever thought comes up. And one page is for body, another page is for emotions, another page is for mind, another page is for money, for relationships, for sex, for whatever's coming up. And as you see it, you consciously look at it and you go, huh, and then the thought completes. And something that's understood about mind is that, for example, you're thirsty, so you take a sip. If that satisfies the thirst, you're not thirsty anymore. If it doesn't satisfy the thirst, you need another sip. And then something shifts. No, I just feel it. And now you're thirsty, and then it doesn't come up anymore, right? Until the next time you're thirsty. What about going to the bathroom? You don't need to go to the bathroom until you need to go to the bathroom. And then you go to the bathroom, and then you forget about it, and you don't think about going to the bathroom until the next time you need to go.
Right.
And that's how the thinking, feeling body works. So mind works the same way. I need to do something. Until I do it, that's going to keep coming up. I need to pay my bills. I need to pay my credit card. Okay. As soon as the bill comes in, I pay it off immediately. Now until next month, I don't have to think about it. Red. I have an alarm. I've got my smart device. Lets me know, okay, I got to pay this, this, and this. Pay it immediately. So what if there's a conversation you need to have with a family member, a colleague, a significant other, a problem, an issue, an apology that you owe someone? It won't stop bugging you until you complete it. So just go apologize. Clean house. Clean your mind out. And every time you do, that ends that thought. Now, how many angels dance on the head of a pin? Well, this is one of those thoughts that just, okay, let's write that thought down and let's burn it. Literally burn it. Or write it down in cursive writing. Date it and sign it, complete with this thought, and burn it. If it comes up again, write it down again. 1, 2, 3 times. At some point, it ends. You just start cleaning out your house. And every thought that you eliminate is open bandwidth for a new thought. So, what are you going to put in? What are you going to put in? Oh, something I just watched on TikTok or something I watched on the news. Something about empowering myself, maybe. Or just keep it silent. No, I need to think about something. Okay, well, why? Because I haven't reached the financial level that I can. Well, there's an entire section we can talk about some other day on how to complete the financial app, how to have an app, a mind that allows you to generate abundance. Because it's a thought process. If you have the right thoughts, you will generate abundance and attract money. If you don't, you will not. That's simple. Money is a thought. It's just a construct. As we go more into cashless society, it's even a greater construct. It's great. And guess what? For that, there's corporations. You can set up a fictitious persona to take care of that. I personally, the only cash that I have in my bank account, I like to joke around with we have enough for chewing gum and condoms. Like just simple stuff. That's it. What else do you need cash for? Everything else is in a corporate vessel because it's a fictitious persona designed to tax efficiently with low resistance channel money. Then I bring in as little money as possible into my personal account, and every month I finish it because I'm a hunter-gatherer. And as a hunter-gatherer, I need to feel hungry to go out and gather more abundance. And when does it hunt? When it's hungry. When it's not hungry, I saw the beautiful picture of 3 cheetahs playing with a baby deer. They're playing with it. They're licking it. They're playing. They're not hungry, so they're not going to kill it. There's abundance. So as long as I keep myself within a certain personally. Now, can I have companies that generate and carry 6, 7 figures? Yeah, of course. We're ready to jump to the next level. We're getting ourselves ready. We're going to jump to billionaires. But I'm not personally going to carry that around because if I did that, it makes me fat, lazy, and dull, and it fills my head with something that doesn't need to be in there. I have a separate hard drive, right? I have a separate hard drive. Where is this thing? For carrying information that I don't need on my laptop. So I can have a corporation for dealing with all the business and money stuff, separate from what's in here. And here I keep only the thoughts, the ideas that are necessary for this being to function and thrive, right? Why? Because then it gives me full bandwidth. I've got the potential of 1,000,000 thoughts of power, and I'm only carrying half a dozen to a dozen thoughts at a time in my head. Only half a dozen to a dozen thoughts. And I'm aware of each thought, each stream of thought. There's a string that one thought has to do about me and myself, and another about my family, my wife, my daughter, my business, the program, this client, that client. I can hold multiple streams of thought because the rest of the mind is empty of incomplete thoughts. I choose what I eat. I choose my food for thoughts. And then I digest them completely. And then I bring in the next one. It really makes a difference. Then you're just floating, being present. Being present is like floating. You don't do anything. You're just fully present. And all this information comes through. All this creativity comes through. Does that make sense? So the 3 basic things. The first one is learn how to stop and reboot your mind as quickly, as simply, as effortlessly. It needs to be as simple as, that's all it takes. I can stop any thought process just like that. I don't need to jump into ice water. I don't need to go, run and do wind sprints. I don't do it. Just take a breath. I needed to do a lot of things before. I need to do that emergency breathing process. Stop it, blow it out. But each time I did it with less. And then I focused on, hey, let's identify all the situations in my life where I just kind of pop out. I love driving. I love running. I love swimming. I love dancing. I love drawing. I love playing musical instruments. Whenever I'm doing that, I'm not in here. A quick hack, pulling myself straight back into my body with my breath instantly. And emotions. Well, you clear your emotions once. But you don't. I don't walk into my house with muddy shoes and stomp them all around. I take them, I rinse them outside the door. I clean and cook. So after dinner, there's very little to put away. My house we keep our home clean because there's something, we pick it up. There's a little dust, we sweep it. There's a little stain, we wipe it. But like as it happens, imagine being able to do that. So now I can go out there and I can dive into the stickiest emotional mess with anybody. If I have a good reason to, I'm not worried about it. I'm not concerned about feeling because I can wash it off. I'm not holding on to it. I'm not stuck with it because I'm not repressing any emotion. Did I have to be angry for hours at a time and destroy a bunch of towels and kick a bunch of yoga balls? Yeah, sure. And we have like this boxing mat, put on gloves. Yes, sure. Did I have to let myself get sad and cry for hours at a time? Yeah. It took me about 2 or 3 days of fully going in deeply, and you come out. Once you're out, you're out. And you go back in, you repress. Now I'm going to repress, and I'm going to let my laundry pile up, and I'm going to let the dishes pile up in the kitchen, and I'm not going to flush the toilet for a week. No, why would you do something like that? You clean yourself out. You just keep things clean as they go. There is a certain amount of housekeeping, of course, because I'm an active dynamic. I like to go out and get dirty. I like to play. I'm an active participant. I'm not a spectator. I like to go out and do things, which means I'm going to come back dirty, scratched, and bruised. Aches and pains. I'm going to need to take an extra long bath. I'm going to need to just lay quietly for a while. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. I'm going to get into a business deal. I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Oh my God, what's going to happen with this person and that thing and $1 million? Okay, breathe, write it down, clear it out. Done. Right? Does that make sense? It's not there anymore. That's right. So in order for that tension to be there, you need your nervous system needs to be firing to maintain it. In other words, I keep my fist clenched.
Yeah.
Clenched. How do I keep it clenched? Otherwise, eventually, if I fall asleep, it relaxes. Now, we can have traumas. We can have things that hold us. For example, I had many, many years ago, I met this lovely woman, and we got into a relationship, and she moved in, and she had all sorts of autoimmune disorders that were popping up. She was being diagnosed with lupus. She was going to be given immunological medicines and things like that. And there were a couple of things. And she was very tense, very emotional, very lovely, beautiful being. So, and very weak. So, and she had been, she'd been a vegetarian. She'd been vegan for like 3 years, 3 to 5 years. And I said, can we please do an experiment? Can we just eat tiny little bits of animal proteins and fats in particular, because your nervous system is, well, it's animal. There's no such thing as a brain and nervous system in plants, not like ours. Right. Just a little bit, just a tiny, tiny little bit. So I would give her little bits of little seafood, a little bit of fish, get her to eat some egg and a little chicken, a little pork, a little ham, a little bacon. And for a few weeks, and it started to stabilize her a little bit. She doesn't need to stay that way, but every once in a while, the body might need a little boost. The batteries might be low, especially for repressed emotions, because emotions, animals have emotions, and there's a biochemical component to our emotions. So, but that was one thing. But the other thing I noticed, I remember I woke up one night and she was asleep, and she was sleeping, and she was like this, all tightened up. And I looked at her and I touched her hand, and she went, ow. She let it go. And she fell back asleep. It was really strange. So I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would see that she was tight, and I would just loosen her. And 4 days later, she said, my pain in my wrist is gone. I think my lupus is getting better. That food must have been working. And I was like, I have a confession to you. I've been watching you in your sleep. It's like, oh, you freak. Guess what happened? I woke up one night and you were we're all tightened up. So I just did this, and she looked at me and she had a flashback. Just when I was a little girl, my mother, who couldn't take care of me, left me with my grandparents. My grandfather was alcoholic. He was violent. He used to grab and twist my wrists. She was holding on to that trauma. And in her sleep, she would get all twisted out of fear. And especially because she was eating meats now, her emotion was coming up. So as her emotion was coming up, and her, let's say her emotional batteries were getting charged up, she was starting to feel things more tightly. So I would loosen up for her. And she got into relaxing and doing a little more yoga and being more mindful of it. Her symptoms disappeared. Because a child that is being abused physically in some manner, the impression they're going to get is that they have a rejection against their body. Now, I'm not saying this is in all cases, but I found allergies and rejections to my body based on the way I was raised and the way I was punished as a child. Because yes, as a child, I actually, if I got hit by an adult with anger or with rage, then I took it in as I'm not good, I'm not supposed to be here, and I took a rejection against my body. My conscious awareness of it is enough to release it, becoming fully conscious and aware of it. Journaling on it, writing, drawing, writing a poem, singing a song, dancing, being angry. I had the crayons and just, went crazy on a big piece of paper with crayons in there, just put all my angers and demons and things like that. I signed it and burned it. So our body minds, our thinking, feeling, body minds, mind, bodies. Every thought you're having is triggering something. If it's attached to your body, it's triggering something in your body. If it's about your emotions, it's something in your body. Now you're using that bandwidth for that. It's an app in the background. Does it make sense? But you can breathe into your tummy and a nice full breaths, because a lot of times we just breathe in our chests. We forget to breathe. As babies, when we're born, when the way we breathe, if you look at a newborn child, when it breathes with its whole body. It's so interesting. Even the sphincter, the anus, opens with each inhale. Exhale, it closes. Yeah. So we when we're potty trained, especially if we're potty trained violently, we're taught to hold and clench tight, hold everything tight. I am fully conscious awareness of the tightness of anywhere and everywhere in my body at all times. It's always there. I am aware of the position of my toes. When I'm walking, I walk on the pads of my feet. Even through my shoes, I make sure with each step, I open my toes and as if I'm walking barefoot inside my shoes. I learned that here in Thailand. I would take my shoes off here in Thailand. Everyone uses flip-flops, right? So my partner, my girlfriend, she's always barefoot and her toes are always wide out. If you look at their toes, they're open. My toes are all scrunched up because they're always in shoes. And I always walk on my heels. And I thought, wait a minute, but how do animals walk? Wait, no, they don't walk on their heels. Where do you see an animal on its heels? They walk on their toes. And you want grip. So I had to learn to consciously spread my toes. So now with each I spread each toe and I walk. Hip problems, knee problems, back problems, gone. See that? Tension problems. I'm aware of where I'm holding tension in my body. I simply, I'm tight here. Where do I go? I take a breath. I wiggle. I shake it out. I just keep doing that. And they say it takes 21 days to create a habit. Right? You understand what I'm saying, right? You get the gist of it, right? You're aware of posture. If you're out of posture and you're aligned, your body's out of alignment. And there's signals going through your nervous system telling you you're out of alignment. You're not paying attention to it. You're ignoring it, right? I would take my backpack and I would put it over one to go to work or go to school. And it would out of alignment and I would ignore it. So then I would need to go to a chiropractor and take pain medication because of my neck. And all I needed to do was just put the backpack on properly, sit straight, make sure that when I'm sitting that my feet are symmetrical. Align your body with symmetry. Breathe properly, hydrate properly, blood sugar properly, eat all the nutrients your body needs, not what you think you need. So you need more veggies, eat more veggies. You need some meat, eat some meat. What do you need to fully function? What do you need to be fully present? And I'll give you, this is it. This is how you know, this is the tell. Whatever allows you to simply and effortlessly, suddenly drop into being present, relaxed. No thought, no emotion, no feeling, no nothing. You're just breathing, you're looking up through your eyes, you're hearing through your ears, you're feeling through your body, you're fully present. Whatever allows that to happen more often, that's the right way. Because that's how all of life is functioning, fully present. Might not be aware that they're present, but we have the capacity to be fully present and fully aware that we're present. And we have the capacity to be fully lost in our minds in a body image, an emotional image, a psychological image, a sexual image, a financial image, a relationship image, a political image, a religious image. And they're just images, and they're using up all of the bandwidth. And when we're in there, we're not here, and we can't be in here. When you're in your head, you can't be in your heart. So if you go from being in your head to being in your stomach, which is where all your fight or flight reflexes are around a relationship, maybe somehow you bypassed your heart, which could be possibly why there was problems with the relationship and why it didn't work, because it was either a psychological desire of something you wanted, and fear, fight, flight in your tummy. And when you're in either one of these, you can't be in here because you can only, you have to choose. You're either in the bathroom or you're in the kitchen or you're in the office. You can't be in the bathroom, kitchen at the same time because you definitely don't want to work where you should need it. Like that's just too much, right? It's a separation, right? Does that make sense? Because there are things that are required to process, but it's really about bringing your full awareness into your entire being as a thinking, feeling body. Tensions, and it gets itself crooked and out of shape if it doesn't pay attention, versus it aligns itself, it breathes, hydrates, and eats what it needs. Then it's got a mind that's going to turn on, because it's got a million on triggers that will stay there until you actually diffuse them. Until you turn off those on triggers, it'll stay on. And it's got emotions that if they're repressed, you're in trouble. They're poisonous. They're toxic when they're repressed. So what to do? Well, it takes a couple of months. Read the book and do the exercises. A couple of days, a couple of weeks makes a difference. Like 3 months, and you can clear out all of your repressed emotions. Now you've got so much bandwidth because your body's taken care of, your emotions are clear, and now there's thoughts. Well, there's a million thoughts to clean. If you can figure out exercise breathing, if you can fine-tune breathing exercise number 1, you can be dropping yourself in every time you remember. Exercise 2 for 5 minutes, or as little as 3 minutes, is when you're working. So I work on something and I clear my mind, and then I jump into learning, about new math or a new language or a new program. And then 55 minutes later, I stop. An hour later, I stop. I do breathing exercise number 2, completely clears my mind. Then I jump in, I go back. Now something comes up, an emotion or a deep trauma and anger and anxiety and stress. Excuse me, lay down, breathing exercise number 3, blow it out. Because unless a tiger is attacking you, Tommy is about to hit you, unless there's a bomb going off, unless someone's pointing a gun at you, unless there's a knife at your throat, why would you need to feel fear, anger, rage, anxiety? Like, who's attacking you? That's right, it's a sentiment. It means it's a sentence, something you're feeling with your mind. It's not a real emotion. Emotions happen in the moment. Someone says something funny, laugh, and then you're done. Somebody does something horrible, growl, you bark, and then it's done. There's a clap of thunder and a flash of lightning, and then it's done. Emotions need to be completely done. Energy goes through. Once it's finished, there should be no residue. Any emotion felt and experienced with full awareness leaves 0 residue. After the tsunami, calm. So you go and you have that fight with that person. So what do? You breathe properly, you eat, sleep, take care of yourself, get yourself ready, you're clear, you go have that fight, that argument, that emotional intensity with whoever, the sadness, whatever's happening. And then you come back, you clear yourself, you're done. It's like a sneeze, you're done with it. Nothing else. If you're thinking about it and bringing it up, it's not an emotion, it's a sentiment. It's mental, it's a mental projection. Now you're in your head. Breathe it. If breathing exercise 1 doesn't get rid of it, then do breathing exercise number 2. If number 2 doesn't get rid of it, then do breathing exercise number 3. Number 3 will blow it out. Once it's blown out, then you know that, okay, what's bringing it back? Oh, I'm bringing it back. Why am I bringing it back? Because I'm not complete about something. All right, well, let's complete it. What do I need to write? And send an email, a text message, an SMS, an emoji to someone. What do I need to do? Do I need to write it down and just burn it? Maybe I don't need to send it to anybody. So this is what I like to do. This is my basic follow-up calls, usually like a 90-minute call. It's a basic follow-up call for people who've gone through my course. It's now how to apply this. And you're the only one that can do it. So the more awareness you're bringing into aligning your body, breathing properly, hydrating. Like I never leave a source of water thirsty, ever. If I go to the restaurant, I leave my house hungry, but I don't leave my house thirsty. Because I know that as little as 1 or 2 glasses of water is enough. I'm not at peak performance anymore. Why would I want to be anywhere less than peak performance for whatever I'm doing? Sleeping, obviously peak performance sleeping does not involve eating a bunch of chocolate and drinking coffee, watching an action or a horror film. That's not preparation for peak performance sleeping. Peak performance sleeping, I stopped eating hours before, I'm listening to gentle music, or maybe I'm having a good dance, right? I'm working it out. If there's a dynamic, then I'm actively being dynamic. right? Does that make sense? If I want to watch a horror film, I can, but then I got to jump up and down and I got to go kill a yoga ball or something because then I killed the monster. Okay, now I killed it. Now it's done. Okay, so now the emotion passed, right? Does that make sense? We kill all the imaginary monsters, and then, because if you were just a thinking, feeling body, if you were a natural animal in the savannah, every once in a while there'd be a lion or a hyena or a bear or a saber-toothed tiger. Imagine what it was like thousands of years ago living in nature. And let me just throw in one last little thing. But when we were out there a long time ago, living in and some people still live in Aboriginal conditions and tribal conditions, but the amount of predators out there has greatly been reduced due to hunting. And when you could be snuck, when there were lions and tigers and bears out there that could eat you, you need to be more sensitive. Because of all the animals our size, right? So we're in the 40 to 70 kilogram range. We're in the 100 to 200 pound range, right? So think of any animal our size. Is there any animal that has thinner skin, weaker nails, or more useless teeth than could you scratch a pig to death? Could you bite a pig? A squirrel? Could you even bite a squirrel without it blood? That it's scratching your eyes out. Like, what can you do to anything smaller than, bigger than this, with your nails, with your teeth, anything can bite us. Anything can scratch us, anything can. Our greatest superpower for defense, our ordinary superpower, was our sensitivity. It was the fact that we have more nerve endings at the end of our skin. That if someone is looking at us from across the room from behind our back, we feel it. Have you ever had that experience? And you can feel it. Someone's just pointing energy in your direction and you can feel it. Someone's just staring at you. And you know that somebody's staring at me. Because you feel it. We're that sensitive. Wouldn't our greatest strength, especially as a female, who might be pregnant or might be carrying kids, might have children with her, she might be hunter, she might be gathering berries, and there's a tiger somewhere, wouldn't her capacity to sense it from a mile away be more powerful than your capacity to go try to beat it up? We're very, very, very intelligent and sensitive as thinking and feeling bodies. It's the intelligence of our body. What's happening in our head is mentation. We're mentating. Quadratic equation, the alphabet, numbers, stories. This is all mentation processes, or mentating. It's one of intelligences. But we have other intelligences. Every cell in our body is intelligent. Our immune system is intelligent. Our skin is intelligent. When you scratch, when you get a scratch, it knows that it's cut and it knows to grow back and it knows when to stop growing. Every cell in our body is intelligent. Our entire being is intelligent, but there are different types of intelligences. So what we call our IQ is just what's happening in our minds. When this is on, and in projection mode, it's using up the entire system. So the rest of the system is off. It's like a walkie-talkie. You're pressing the talk button on the as soon as you stop pressing the talk button on the walkie-talkie, you're now in reception mode. Mind is the button. So I want to be able to project. I want to be able to project my thoughts. I want you to understand what I'm saying. It's to my advantage. It's to your advantage. So I'm doing that, right? I'm communicating with you or with somebody else. So I'm projecting. But then I want to be sensing and feeling everything around me. Nature and beauty, so it's very practical, it's very easy, it's very nice. I'm in a city now in Bangkok. Around me, I'm surrounded by 10 million unhappy, stressed out, worried about money, pandemic, about this and that, violence, whatever, everything that's happening, right? So now my body is picking up all the stress from me, making me tense. So if I am emotionally repressed, if I don't know all the thoughts in my unconscious mind, if I don't know what's going on inside of me, and I'm already kind of split, divided, like we discussed before, then all of this adds more stress. And then I'm just scared, nervous, I need drink, I need smoke, I need drugs, I need this, I need that, I need more, I need sex or violence or something to distract me. Or money, ambition, I need to chase after something. Right? Does that make sense? But if I take the time and just turn my home into a little protective cocoon where I keep it clean, I have some plants, if I don't have time for a cat or a dog, I may have some goldfish or a little turtle, house plants that I can take care of, flowers, right? And I keep it protected. I have the yummiest foods in there and I have everything just nice. So I can come in here and just breathe and relax and unwind. And then process my emotions. I get my body aligned, my emotions. So I maintain myself clean. Then I start mapping out my thoughts. Now I'm like the proverbial, like the empty vessel. There's nothing going on inside. Like you can literally get to the point where, I'm going to tell you something, I'm very honestly, I have zero thoughts, ideas, values, or beliefs about myself. I just simply know myself. There's no voice in my head having an argument with another voice in my head about anything that's going on in my life up to date, because I'm up to date. There's no picture in my head having an argument with another picture in my head, because I don't need a picture in my head to see myself. I turn that off and I can just see myself. So as far as I'm concerned, me, there's nothing going on inside. There's nobody inside. There's nothing happening inside about me. If in an hour I get hungry, then hunger is going to come up. Hunger is happening. Oh, well, what time is it? Oh, thought process. Okay, it's almost lunchtime. Great. See who wants to have lunch. Or, oh, it's still early, it's not lunchtime. Maybe just a glass of water will do, or a piece of cheese or some nuts, or and then it resolved. Now it's quiet again. There's nothing going on in here about me. I have all my emotions are clear, so I don't. You were born that way, and then you accumulated over your entire life everything you accumulated. So the only way to get there is to spring clean. There's no other way. How else could it be, right? I hope it sounds obvious, but you filled the box with stuff. Pandora's box is filled with stuff, and until you open it and empty it out, it's filled with stuff. There's no other way around it. So you can clear it out because it's a limited amount of stuff. But you do have to take it out. And you take it out with conscious awareness because you put it in there with unconscious, unaware, because you imprinted it from your parents, your grandparents, your teachers, your preachers, your society, your neighbors, your friends, the movies, the songs, culture. And then you imprinted that, it just came in. So then you go through and you're like, okay, well, this is clear out. This is junk. This is good. This is trash. This is silly. This is completely stupid. But you putting all the books back up in the shelves in the library, and then there's no books on the ground. I can go back and I can revisit the thought, because a year from now, I might want to revisit something that happens, or I might have some experience where I encounter someone, they've had a drowning experience, or I'm in the water and the water's, churning and it's difficult. And then I have to remember, okay, breathe, float, relax, right? So you can revisit, your memories are there so that you can recall them, but they should always be there. You're going to retrieve it when you need it. But you had breakfast this morning. Have you been thinking about your breakfast since after you finished it? So most experiences are like that. And if it was a really memorable breakfast because you had this amazing champagne brunch with your favorite person in the world, well, then how was that? Or yeah, I had a bowl of whatever, music. I think 3 days ago I had the same thing, but I can't recall. Do you need to recall? Does it matter? Right? And if you want to recall it, you can write it down. You're a writer, write it down, write a story about it, and then let it go. You might want to do that. You might want to start journaling and writing your stories out, having a timeline. Going back, filling in your time. Oh, I learned this, oh, this happened here, this time. There's something really beautiful about mapping yourself out. Yeah, so as a story thing, and this is something that we'll be able to explore more. We'll find more time to discuss it. There's something about a story, right? So a story begins, it's no different than the thirst thing until it's complete, right? You're watching some series on TV and what happens next? Right? You want to go to bed and think of what's going to happen the next week, right? So you want to binge watch, you keep going. Mind loves stories. Mind is a collection of stories. Something to be said when you have a complete story from beginning to end about yourself. The book closes and it goes on the shelf. So I find there's two types of people, and sometimes it depends on what your mindset is. If you have more of a masculine mindset or a more feminine mindset, but my mindset, and I'm I'm a male, so to speak, right? A masculine male, is that I need to know everything and a scientist. I need to understand everything and everything about everything. And this mind will not stop until it has an understanding of everything. So I got into science. My first question was why. My first word was no. I said no to everything, and then it was why. So I needed to study physics to understand the universe and where it came from. I needed to study biology and chemistry to understand life. I needed to understand ecology, psychology. I needed to study a little bit of everything. And I have a complete story that works from the beginningless beginning, where I understand that nothing exists, nothing, if empty space in all directions forever, doesn't need a creator. Like it just exists. Like emptiness just is. It's for me, it's like an absolute fact. It's an existential reality. It's reality zero, I call it, baseline reality. That's it.
Right.
And then from there, things happen. And this has been studied. If you have empty space, photons come through, energy comes through. Story from nothing to atoms to molecules to biomolecules to cells to living organisms to complex living organisms like ourselves with minds that have this. And this is my story. And my complete story is complete. Mine's complete. I'm complete. So the story's complete. So now it's put away. It's on the shelf. You wrote a book, you finished it, it's done. It's published, it's done. It's complete. It's a work of art. You've finished your painting and you start a new one. But the other one, you take it off the easel. So can you complete yourself? Can you complete your story? So some people need to know everything about everything to complete their story. That was me. Tantra, my partner, she just needed to complete her own personal story. Where the universe comes from and what it is. And those are, by the way, so what are stars? Where do they come from? I remember she asked me one time. I remember she was raised Aboriginal. So she had a completely different mindset.
Right.
So for her, more in her heart, she's a feminine female. For her, it's just about accepting. Okay, I accept that there's this whole universe and I don't need to understand it. And there's things about myself that I don't know yet. I need to understand. So that allows her mind to stop. And then she takes the time to go in and go, okay, but why do I get stuck here? Why does this emotion keep coming up? Or why does this fear keep coming up? Okay, so let's do a study on that. So she studies, meditates, and then writes out her story. And by putting her story into words, she completes herself.
Interesting.
When the story is complete, it folds up and it goes on the shelf. Does she forget who she is? No, but is she constantly trying to remember who she is? There's no need. Right? It's like beliefs. To believe something means to accept something without verifying it. Somebody who has a strong belief means they're continuously reminding themselves of something that they will not go and verify to see if it's true or not, because they're accepting it as a belief. So while beliefs are very good and very interesting, they keep this on, which prevents you from dropping into your body, into your heart, into your being present. And there's some things you can only figure out when you're present. There's things like oneness, divinity, godliness, love that do not exist in our head. There's stories about, there's poems about, there's movies about, there's a lot of stories about love, about God, about oneness, about all the miracles of aliveness that's clearly there's some mysterious miracle happening. They're not knowable. That's what a mystery by definition is not knowable. It can be experienced, it can't be known. So what if you can complete all the stories, drop all the beliefs, all the story, just drop everything, and then just experience it? Then you just experience it. You have a direct experiencing of it. It's not knowledge. You can't write a poem about chocolate so that somebody who's never had chocolate can read the poem. And the same thing goes for love and connection and oneness and spirit and whatever you want to call it. God, godly, it doesn't really matter what you call it. Why not call it anything and just turn this off and experience it?
And
so
it
as a writer,
is.
it just is. So as a writer, something you may want to consider doing is figuring out what's incomplete and finish them and complete them and start with yourself. That might just be enough. And then that's complete. And then that folds away and it's done. And it leaves room for new stories that will be completed, folded away, and kept. And I hope that what comes across is that this is not meant to be a belief system or a philosophy. It's just a practical approach towards
Yes.
thinking, feeling body, strong, flexible, yoga, dancey, ready to fight. And you got to, if you practice killing yoga balls, not that you'll ever need to fight, but you never know, right? Clear that out. And it lets your anger out.
Mm-hmm.
And then anger comes out, and then you feel sadness, so you cry it out, and you let it come out. And then, well, there's some things you just have to do 10 times, 100 times. Some stains need more scrubbing. Some things rinse out easily. Things need a little more work, right? So the easy ones, clear them out, and the other ones take more time, but it's okay. And then, so your body's healthy, your emotions are healthy. This is biology. This is like physical. You can do it. Like the garden is polluted, you clear out the dirt, you wash, you rinse, right? You take all the poisonous food out of your refrigerator, and you put in all natural, healthy, organic stuff. And that's just a process. And then your mind is, think of it as content, software with apps that some of them are great when we keep them, and some of them are outdated, and some of them are just virus, buggy, and just crappy, and they just overheat the entire system. So those need to be deleted, but you can't delete it if you don't know what it is. So all you have to do is you're now in a healthy, thinking, feeling, present body, stable and balanced. And now what do you do? Well, now you're just mapping out all your stories, and you're a storyteller. So just complete each story at the end of this chapter. The end of this chapter. And then you might read somewhere and go, oh, wait, I need to add something to this one. And you go back and open it, and then you add another detail to it. And you can keep updating. There's things that I will discover every year that allow me to update myself and what I understand about myself from when I was a child. So it's just a footnote. It's not. It's a minor project. So my bandwidth, I've got 10% of my bandwidth goes towards my personal upkeep. And I got 10% that goes towards my family. So I got 10% towards my business. 60, 70, 50, 60, 70% available for creativity. And creativity is king, like being able to be creative. There's something about being creative that. Well, yeah, but we caught a cockroach in the apartment yesterday. That female carries 100,000 fertilized eggs ready to be procreative. Right, every fruit, thousands of fruit from every tree. Everything is creative, and we are that universe, right? Mm-hmm. But if your easel is filled with all sorts of old junk, if your kitchen is filled with piles of unclean dishes and pots and pans, if everything's used up, then how can you be creative? And this is the ultimate creative studio, right in here. What you can do with this, plus all the extra software and the things that are available that are peripherals that exist. Mm-hmm. All the technology is incredible in the information, but you clean yourself. So that's the whole.
Put it away.
Know thyself really means know thyself as in clean thyself up, awaken thyself. Mm-hmm. It is know thyself and clean thyself up. Start. Complete the essentials program, fine-tune your breathing exercises, and then let's have another call when you're ready. Your life is a journey, so there's nothing more important to me than taking care of myself, being fit. Then I can have the best. I'm here to experience life. I'm here to thrive. So why not have the best experience possible? And then choose the life you want to have, choose the thoughts you want to have. Otherwise, they're going to be chosen for you. Well, you can see the last 2 years have been very clear about that, right? So this has been very good to turn the lights on as to the consequences of not being aware of yourself and healthy and taking care of yourself.